Hey Happy Crew, HappiDaze here, and today we are doing day 3 of Grand Party. So I'm doing not a live voiceover like I usually do, I'm kind of doing a post-analysis of kind of what happened, just because it was kind of late, I didn't have access to my recording information or mics or anything like that, so let's kind of walk through. So I am going to change my captain first from a rare recruit to a friend captain. As I mentioned, when you're done for the day, set your captain to a non-burst captain. Helps make everyone's life easier. So for this first match, we're going to go ahead and take on that final team that you see at the bottom there. So we're just taking a look at some of the other teams. Nothing really scared me on the first team. Second team, same thing. Pretty crazy slasher team. Quick team is super boosted this season, so you have to watch out for that. But the third team is just much more easy to defeat. They obviously look like it's an auto-generated team after they were done for the day. Non-burst captain, real easy to get the victory. So let's just go ahead and get into this. So for this first battle, I'm actually going to end up skipping most of the battle just because it's all pretty much just cannon fodder, right? There's no unit on here that's really scary or that could give me any problems. So it's just easier sometimes to just go ahead and skip if you know they're not going to have a burst to use against you. And the slasher team is insanely beefy, right? So we're going to go for just a little bit here, just so we kind of show you, what it looks like, but we're going to ultimately end up skipping that match, just so we can kind of get you to some matches that are actually worth looking at and are really good. So as we get into the second and third matches of the day, you'll see it gets much harder. There were some mistakes that were made, but luckily it wasn't anything that I couldn't recover from. But yeah, this season is no joke with the amount of just pure craziness in terms of what the quick team can do, and that debuff that happens to slashers just makes that strategy that I use of trying to getting that first win without using a burst a little bit harder that's out there. So what I'm actually thinking of is maybe for the fourth day, swapping out the Nami and Karina here with Otama. It gives me a little bit of an opportunity to bring in tunes on the back bench that I don't have, as well as it just gives me more of a chance to stay alive, right? So the strategy that I like to use when I'm fighting is to see if I can get the opponent to use 2 bursts on 1 turn. That way, that for that third match, assuming that I haven't used a burst, I have 2, which is a guaranteed win. Or worst case, I have 1 burst and they have none for that last match. So it kind of works even if you're facing someone who might have a Int Luffy leader or a Psy Luffy leader, however that might be. So that strategy seems to work out pretty well. So we'll see. I might keep this one more day. Might swap it out. We'll end up seeing how the matches for day 4 go, but that's kind of my thought process here. Like I said, because there's really no synergy of all these units, you can see Sanji is hitting like a tank, Luffy's going to go and hit like a tank, and then, that first match will pretty much be wrapped up with giving us the victory. We do take 1,000 damage here from the burst from the Barto and Cavendish, but like I said, that's like nothing. So yeah, let's just go ahead and quickly get through the rest of this match, and yeah, it shouldn't take too long to get through here. It is nice that Nami and Karina can just keep reversing specials, not that it's really needed, but if you're facing a team like the Slasher team, or even the Quick team, which can do a lot of damage really quick, having like a Nami and Karina just kind of prevent them from going right away, give your guys a chance to attack helps. The one downside, though, where it doesn't really help is that if you have a Int G5 captain, he ends up taking damage, and that's how you charge his burst, right? So if your enemy isn't running his specials, doing a lot of damage, then it's a little bit longer to get your burst ready. So that's kind of the only downside here. My burst is ready. I think I'm going to use it in just a few seconds here just to quickly clear the left of the field. There's only 4 units left. And just gives us an easy victory for that match number 1. You can see it's hitting for 6k a pop against all 4 of those units, and it just makes it really easy to get through that content. So let's go ahead and hop into match 2, which is where I kind of made a critical mistake that we'll go through. Will be one that I'll have to look at for the days going forward just to make sure it doesn't happen again. So you can see here we don't have any rare recruit captains. All of them are pretty crazy, right? So you have 85k slasher teams. You have fully built out quick teams that are there, and of course you can't see the last team, right? So you kind of don't know what's going on there. So that's why when you're done for the day, just make sure that you're setting your leader someone in the 3rd slot so people will kind of know what that 3rd team that you're running is. But I think out of all these units, the one that kind of scares me the least is that bottom there. Obviously it's a beefy quick team, as I said before, but and we could swap out our mill team with the Dex team and then have them go first if we wanted to. That would probably be the safer strategy, but we didn't do that. So is what it is. They do have a Free Spirit team, it looks like in the middle, and then another Free Spirit, I'm assuming based on the Luffy, in that last position. So our int Luffy team that we have is actually pretty good. It just massacres Free Spirit, so I was feeling pretty confident going in here. So the one thing, and you'll see it in this first match, you do have to watch out for Quick, because like they are crazy this season just in terms of what they can do. Like I said, you have the Tesoro here who can do the 4K hit. You have the Kane who does a 30% HP cut, and it can overwhelm you really quickly, right? Especially if you don't have a high CT, and you have someone on their side like Smoothie, for example, who could help rewind specials. It could take forever before your guys even go, and you can see like just that one hit right there. It took like 50% of all our guys' HP, right? So pretty crazy. And if you'll see when we get a little bit farther here, probably should use the burst a little bit earlier, but it is what it is. So you see we already lose Hawk, and he's one of the big damage dealers. So what this team is really meant to do is be able to take on slasher teams especially well, right? So we have the whole back bench is really units that can do a lot of damage to slashers, but it's not so great when you're facing quick teams who don't have a lot of slashers, right? So that's kind of the downside of this approach. But you can see we're just kind of chugging along. Whitebeard and Blackbeard just do a monster hit. Sorry, Roger and Whitebeard do a monster hit there. Kick out 2 units themselves. Shanks is going to give us some shield. Also do a hit himself to do some damage. So that part's good. We got most of the big damage dealers out of the way. Of course, you have the Pochemi and those guys in the back who can do fixed damage attacks, which is always a pain. That Blue Jam as well. So you just got to watch out what's kind of going on here. So like I said, unfortunately for us, we only got the first hit from the Shiki there because they didn't have any slashers on their team. So that's kind of the downside there. So we're taking a bunch of damage from the monsters there. But I think at this point I felt pretty confident that we could just skip to the rest and they didn't have enough units to beat us. Now it came much closer than I ever thought it was going to do. But luckily we were able to escape out of there without too much difficulty, which sets up in a really good spot for the second and third matches. Now, like I said, I was pretty worried for a little bit there on that second match. And you saw even with the burst, it was kind of nuts. So you do have to watch out for quick teams this season. Just keep an eye on them. Watch what you're doing. So for the second team that we have here, it's kind of very similar to almost a mirror match, right? So we have Free Spirit teams. Obviously, they don't have the G5 on their team. They have the Ace and Yamato unit there instead. They have Otama to give the healing. Obviously, Zoro with the counter damage there. We take a burst off rip, which is always painful. But what I really wanted to see this season was test out the new Brook from the Memory Straw Hat. So if you guys don't know, he actually gives some extra life to some of your crew members, right? So it just worked out really well, which is why I was thinking maybe swapping out the Nami and Karina here with the Otama, because I think a combination of both of those will make it so like you could just survive forever, right? And you have the Luffy here who has the revive, you have the Zoro here who has the revive. So it'd just be a really tanky team, right? To be to at least take two bursts, right? Would be the ideal, and like I said, that would leave the enemy with no burst for the final stage. So we're not really aiming to win here. What we're really hoping to do is to be able to, take at least 2 bursts that's there. Now, as you can see, we're just kind of chugging along. On their side, they don't have much damage dealers outside of the Yamato and Luffy unit, as well as the countering from Zoro. Sanji does a little bit of damage with his special, but it's not like anything that's like groundbreaking or revolutionary, right? But the biggest issue here is they have that Otama unit, right, who will just keep healing and healing and healing and healing, which is what makes it a bit of a pain. So unfortunately, we weren't able to take out the Nami and Karina there. That would have made things much better. Brook does give the half stats to enemies, which is awesome. You love to see that. So when our guys hit, they do much more damage. Unfortunately, none of our big damage dealers, which is really just the Luffy on our team, was anywhere close to being ready. I stupidly, for whatever reason, just used my special here. I probably should have just stopped and saved it for the third round. I didn't. This was kind of the mistake I made on this match here. I panicked a little bit and thought that if I used my burst here, that I'd be able to just go ahead and finish them off without too much difficulty there. Now King does damage through defense. Luckily for me, he only hit the Brook units that was there. So that was kind of like a godsend there. And you can see that from the burst that we did, the Zoro got forced out because he is a Free Spirit character. But you can see he just came back in. So we're not doing too bad. We still have a bunch of time left. Obviously, we still have the Nami and Karina who are ready to go do the special reverse. So I felt pretty confident that we'd still win. But in hindsight, I don't know if I would have used that burst when I did, right? Maybe if they were a little bit closer to using their burst, I would have held off, because if they used their burst, we definitely would have died. But you can see this team doesn't do a ton of damage, so that's why that burst gauge just never really charged that high. I could have also swapped out our int team for the second team, even though they don't have the healing capability or the revive capability that this team has. So that's kind of why we kept them in the third slot, just because it probably would not have went too well there. So even though it was a little bit of a tricky match with that crazy quick team up front and that free spirit team in the middle, we were able to go ahead and secure the win, get victory number 8 for the day, and move one closer to the end. So this is the match where I royally screwed up when I was playing here. So I panicked a little bit, and you'll see I used my burst in the first match here against the strength team that I'm facing. So I chose Sobamask because he doesn't have a burst, less chance of dying. I saw the middle team was a free spirit team, probably Psy. So it was easy enough where I didn't have to kind of worry too much. But the mistake I made here was waiting too long to use my burst. So the good thing about the strength team is that they're able to just do a ton of damage. That Luffy hits like a tank. You have the Jack here who will give 50% HP cut. You have the Blackbeard who gives a 35% HP cut. Kobe who does boost and reduces some specials. So like it's a crazy combination. Now the downside is that they can get destroyed pretty quickly if you use a burst or things like that, because they don't have high defense. So that's the trade-off, is that they're kind of the glass cannons there. But as you can see, I was just chugging along, and right after Jack uses a special, it'll be pretty close to having the gauge fully charged. I probably should have used it right after here once the gauge gets charged, but I stupidly decided to wait a little bit. And you'll see there was like a weird glitch that actually happened on this stage too. It's not the video software recording that you're seeing here. Like, it actually happened when I was playing, and I was kind of like mystified, like what the heck is going on here? So you'll see it in just a few seconds here, but it was a weird bug that almost cost me the game. I think I would have been okay if that bug didn't happen, but sometimes it happens. So you can see we just take a monster shot from Luffy here, who just does damage to defense and just wipes away everyone. Now the good news is then we could use our burst, and it pretty much wiped out 3 of their units there. But the bad news is they have Law, Kuma, and Akanu's not that scary of a character, but the Law and the Akanu are both really scary characters. So you can see here that my Cat Viper was actually ready to go, and the game just literally glitched and did nothing for like 3 seconds. And then suddenly they were able to go, right? If he was able to go, he probably would have been able to do at least a 3,000 hit, and I think he would have done even more damage to Law, because he has the ability to, I believe, do additional damage against slashers, if I remember correctly. So it was unfortunate. Luckily, we weren't facing a burst captain. This is why we say to use burst captains. It makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, that just puts a lot more pressure, because now we've lost a burst, and we're going into the second match here down, right, which is never a position that you want to be in. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to see if I can, obviously get through this match without having to use a burst. That way I don't have to worry too much. Now I know that final team is most likely the Dex team, based on the fact they're using a Sobamask as their rear recruit. So just because they were doing that, that the Dex team isn't a crazy heavy hitter. They have a ton of defense, even though this season it's down 10 for them. So I felt pretty confident that if it was my int team versus that team, that I could go ahead and secure that victory. Now obviously the int team that I have is really built to kind of take on and destroy the free spirit team. So and there's not really that many free spirit characters that are on that Dex team, outside maybe the Luffy and Sobamask and maybe 1 or 2 others who are free spirit. So of course you have to watch out when you're doing those kind of matches. But a majority of those teams in the Dex are powerhouse driven, those kind of classes. So I knew that it was going to be, super easy, but I had pretty well confidence that if I at least had 1 burst, that I would be able to get through that without too many problems. Of course, on this team, facing the side team, the Aokiji is always a pain. You have Odin who can do the special bind, which is always a pain, and you can see my 2 damage dealers, really, Luffy and Brook, both got silenced for 10 turns. We're going to take a shot from Yamato here. Of course, that charges our burst, but like I said, we're just kind of going on, just hoping that we can get through there. Luckily, we had Nami and Karina to help reverse some of the specials, at least, so at least we weren't taking hit after hit after hit until our guys were ready to go. And you'll see that once Luffy and Brook come out with their specials, it's really just a matter of just waiting until they're ready. Brook will give the half stats, which you'd love to see. And then that'll just make Luffy's attack that much more powerful when he goes. Luckily, the positioning was perfect where he could actually hit everyone. And then he hit Luffy again for a 12k hit, which is insane. and that's why I love this guy so much. He is fully rainbow, fully level limit break, so he hits like a tank, like it's kind of crazy. But that's why I love this character for PvP. And you can see at this point, there's no chance that they can beat us. They only have 2 characters left. We have 8, even though only probably 6 are really fight-worthy. So it lets us go ahead and defeat them. We didn't use a burst, which is perfect. So we go into that last match with a burst advantage. And pretty much as long as you have a burst advantage, like you should be able most of the time to kind of guarantee yourself a win. So I know that's kind of counter to what happened in that first match. Which is where I probably should have switched my free spirit team with maybe a quick team, threw that up front, and just dealt with that much quicker. I didn't, so yeah, that was the mistake on my fault. But you can see going into this Dex match on the last fight here, we're just going to go ahead and just kind of wait till our specials are ready. We could really use our burst whenever, but I kind of was saving it to more towards when our specials were just about ready to go and when their specials were just about ready to go, just to help kind of, you know, help make sure that they don't do the most damage that they can do. So you can see just a bunch of hits there. Forced out the Luffy because he's a free spirit character. Brings a couple from the back end, and then it's just a matter of waiting. So this Atlas character is like insane with what she can do herself. When she has all the requirements to do all her hits of damage, so the in characters, the cerebral characters, all those things, she just plows through content and just plows through people, which is just amazing. Vegapunk is really there just to give some special rewind. Nothing kind of too crazy there. He does do a HP cut, which is just okay. Bonnie reverses specials as well. And then really we have the Luffy and the Uta here to just do a ton of damage really quickly and just kind of help get us through the content. So you can see just like that, without too much problems, we were able to beat that Dex team. We probably could have even beat them if we didn't have a burst, which is good. But like I said, that's all because that the leader that we were fighting was not a burst captain. Otherwise, that would have probably went very differently. So just a quick reminder, you know, when you're done for the day, as you see here, just make sure you go into your setup and just set your character that you're using as someone on the bottom row, just so people know what kind of class and team they're fighting. It just makes it a lot easier. Get everyone to 15 wins. There's no reason not to. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video here. Let me know in the comment section below how your day 3 went. Did you get 9 out of 9? How do you like the season so far? You know, are there any difficulties or bugs that you've seen like I had seen in this video here? Love to hear from you guys. Let me know. And until next time, be kind to each other.